Okay. Hi, I'm Kylie. Thank you for coming today. I'm a student at the University of Iowa studying health and human physiology, and I'm being trained as a health coach. A little bit about me. I'm from California and I love to be outside. I have a silver lab, but I'm excited to get to know you. So as your health coach, my aim is to help you reach your goals by offering you a space to change with guidance and support. This is a confidential space, which means none of your private information will be shared. It will remain between us unless you're a safety risk to yourself or others. And today, I want you to lead the direction of this conversation. I'm encouraging you to be honest with yourself and with me, as this is a space that's free of judgment. At the end of the session, my goal is that you'll have a change plan to meet your goals and feel confident in achieving them. Do you have any questions about any of that before we begin?
No, I'm really excited to start.
Great. So we can start with your vision. Where do you see yourself in 3 years?
In 3 years, I think I'll still be in Richmond, Virginia, and when I'm there, I'm hoping that I'll be able to have a couple of kids. And I think that as far as fitness goes, I'd probably want to be working out maybe 3 to 5 times a week with some lifting and running. And I also hope that I'd be able to spend a lot of time with my wife. I think I just want to have a really good balance between quality time with family and working hard and just pouring into my church as well. I'd really like to be active. So I think in the future, I'm definitely going to have to learn how to balance a lot of responsibilities and yeah, just use my time effectively.
That's great. So what I'm hearing is you're going to be living in Richmond, Virginia, hoping to have some kids and just finding a good balance between life and work and family and your health and just seeing where all that fits in. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Yeah.
So out of all of that, what do you see as being your biggest priority out of those things?
Biggest priority would definitely be family and the church. I think um, family, I'll just really need to put a lot of effort. And I think that it's really important to love my wife well. And assuming I have kids, I think that's really important. And I know it doesn't really address your question, but I also think I'd really like to have a really good relationship with food and um, just having the discipline to be able to cook really healthy meals. I think that's just one way I can really contribute towards my health, and that's something fun I can do with my wife. So I think one thing I want to figure out in the future is just, a rhythm of how to cook meals and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like your goals with your health and food tie into your priorities of family and the church. I think that's a super great place to start. As far as motivation, what do you think motivates you to reach this vision?
Yeah, I think probably the first one is just like love. I think I've been loved first by Christ, and so that kind of just propels me to love others. First and foremost, my wife, and then hopefully I have kids, so it'd be my kids. And I think as part of that, I really do see my body, physical fitness, and food as a gift, and I think that I just really want to treat all of those responsibilities well. And so I've just seen that how food can really be a central aspect of that. Food can be used for healing, it can be used for energy. Um, and I know oftentimes my weakness is eating a lot of ice cream and cookies. And so I think one of my goals in the future is just being able to balance cookies and ice cream, having fun with that. That's a little mini goal, but yeah, ultimately, the Lord is what drives me, and I think that just leads me into love of other people, and then also just really wanting to use all the resources I've received well.
Yeah, I think that's a great motivation. It sounds like you're super grounded in that and you have a firm foundation for what's driving these goals. Um, what do you think would happen if you didn't reach your goal of having a good balance with food and exercise and a family balance and loving them well?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the concept of grace, so it's always nice that my wife and I can meet on the grounds of grace. That if I've messed up or fallen short in some way, she'll extend forgiveness to me, and likewise I extend forgiveness to her. So I think that's always the first thing I fall onto rather than, beating myself up. I think striving for grace with each other is first and foremost, and I already know that I won't meet those goals. I think it would be unreasonable to try and strive after those goals and expect perfection. So I think one thing with like exercise or food is not thinking about how it relates to my body. I think it's more healthy just to look at food as a gift and just trying to get whole foods rather than, oh, this will make me look a certain way or this workout will make me feel or look a certain way. I think it should be more so just like a means of enjoyment and a way to properly take care of my body. So I think one way that food or exercise would mess with the priority of family is if it starts to triumph and take more of my thoughts. I'd rather have my thought space clear to intentional ways of loving my family, caring for them, praying for them, as opposed to how is this food going to make me look better or how much time can I get at the gym. So I think it'll just be crucial to have that proper perspective of priorities and also um, yeah, just having the proper perspective and using my time well.
Yeah, that's great. That kind of leads into my next question. It sounds like you're already aware that you're going to fall short of these goals. And I think that's good to acknowledge, and that you have the means of grace to fall back on. I think that's great that you don't find yourself being too hard on yourself. What are some specific challenges that you think will make this vision difficult?
I mean, I feel like as humans, we're really limited in our capacity to do things. We can't do everything. We can't do everything perfectly. So I think probably always the number one thing is just limited energy. And I think also with limited energy comes increased selfishness. So I can just foresee myself falling into a trap of thinking a lot more of how I look, or even it can become selfish when I think about how much I'm contributing or how much I'm helping out my family. Like I really just want to be driven by grace and just freely loving them because I want to love them, rather than because it inflates my ego or whatever that may be. Um, so yeah, I kind of forgot the question, but
Yeah,
um,
that's okay. It sounds like you're identifying selfishness as being a challenge, that will make this vision difficult. What are some ways that you've tried responding in the past to selfishness? And what was the result? Did it work? Did it not work?
yeah, I feel like there's like three responses I can have to selfishness. Well, three good ones, anyways. I feel like the first one is prayer, and just coming to the Lord and asking Him to give me the strength, what I and things that I don't have the strength for. Just because I'm so prone to selfishness, I would rather not rely on myself. Um, I think the second way that I've overcome it in the past is one of my favorite passages of Scripture talks about the humility of Jesus and how he did nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but counted others more significant than himself. So I think just seeing how he's done that for me really just reorients my heart and just gives me, I guess the motivation is the word, to walk in his footsteps and do that for others. And I think the third one would just be considering why I've been selfish or why I'm feeling that tendency. So I think those are kind of my three responses. And I think the bad responses that I have are just not acknowledging that I'm being selfish or being blind to it. And so ultimately, I need friends to call that out in me. I think we are individually most prone to not seeing our weaknesses. And so I think that's where it's really crucial that I just provide a space for my friends to be able to speak into my life and point out where I may be falling short and need grace.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like you already have a lot of strategies to fight these challenges. It seems like you faced them before, and that just gives you a confidence to move forward. Are there any strategies that you've thought of, that you haven't tried, something you want to try this time around with your goal?
Nothing in particular. I feel like those first two strategies usually work pretty well, and one that's not necessarily a strategy to fighting it, but more of like I guess like a relief or a medication for it is like confessing to my wife or whoever it is when I've been selfish and just like letting them know that I see that I'm sorry, I'm not able to kind of meet the standard that I should be. So I feel like other than confessing and the other three strategies I listed previously, there's not another one I had in mind.
Yeah, that's okay. Those all sound great. And if they've worked for you before, I think that's great to continue with those. As far as strengths, what about you do you think will help make this vision happen? Tell me about a time that you were successful in the past with reaching these goals of having a healthy relationship with food and loving other people well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like discipline is one of my strengths for sure. And I think one of the things I really like doing in the morning is making coffee while my wife gets a little extra rest and preparing that for her to show that I even enjoy doing the little things for her. And I hope that's a means to showing that I cherish her. So I think that's just like a daily example of where I try not to think of myself. And I think other than that, I mean, with food, I think it's the questions I ask myself is if something is like really unhealthy, am I able to eat this without thinking of my body? Can I just freely enjoy this meal before me and not really care about how it affects my body? Um, because I think if ultimately I'm disciplined throughout the week with eating, I'm not consistently, having soda and fried chicken tenders and all the things like ice cream. If I'm fairly disciplined there and I stay physically active, there's no reason why I should be thinking about my body when I'm having something fun to eat. So um I think my wife has helped me a lot with that, and just the fact that I get to enjoy a meal with her is just really special. And so I think that really just takes the eyes off of myself and just more so onto the gift of enjoying food. But I think that's always a spot I can grow more in. And yeah, I just love to never think about my body when I'm eating food.
Yeah, that's great. Um, I think it's important to acknowledge our strengths, and I think that that can increase our motivation when we're trying to reach a specific goal. And I know you already touched a little bit on support with your wife, and also just confessing to her and just having her with you in meals. Is there anyone else in your life that you think will help you accomplish this goal of finding a good balance of health and working out and a good relationship with food?
I think it'll be different because I'll be in Richmond, Virginia, so I'll obviously have new friends and a new support system there. But I think I can always lean on my best friend Gabe or Bryce. I think they're guys that I feel comfortable sharing anything with, and they don't want to tell me what I want to hear. They tell me what they think I should hear, and so I can always trust for them to give me truth rather than something that's supposed to make me feel good. So I think those are two guys that I can always lean on, give them a call, shoot them a text if I feel like something's starting to control my life a little more than I'd want it to.
Yeah, it sounds like you have some pretty solid support surrounding you to reach this goal. I think that's great. What do you think are some specific things that your wife and your two friends can do to support you in this goal?
I think it's always good to ask questions, especially if I am eating a meal that's not necessarily healthy, objectively speaking. I think another thing is my wife in particular can just see how I'm spending my time. Am I spending a couple of hours at the gym? That's not really necessary. And so there's obviously a balance and there's freedom to an extent. But if my time seems to be unreasonable and shows a lack of prioritization, I think she's more than welcome to speak up and let me know. Um, yeah, but for my friends, I think it's mostly just checking in, asking consistent questions. For the most part, I'll reach out to them. And so for them, it's just a matter of listening, asking questions, and telling me what's true.
Yeah, That's great. It sounds like when you reach out to your support, you're also clear to them about what is helpful in the moment. Do you think that sounds true?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's um there's not really a reason for me to hide anything from them. I mean, I don't need to impress them. It's just a matter of sharing where I'm at. They do the same for me, and so it's just kind of a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, that's great. So back to motivation. You talked about your motivators. Now that we've talked through all of the factors that are playing into this goal that you have of just a healthier mindset with food and also a good balance between family life, life in the church, and your exercise habits, from a scale of 1 to 0 to 10, how motivated are you for this vision?
I mean, I would say an 8 probably. I think all those priorities are really important, and I think they all synchronize with one another. So if I'm kind of lacking in my discipline of working out and eating healthy, I think that'll naturally affect me being consistent in the church and with my family. And so I think altogether, I'm pretty committed to these. And so I think it's important that I take necessary steps to continue being able to balance these things.
Yeah, that's great that you can find connections between all of your priorities and how they'll help you meet your goals together. Why did you say an 8 and not a 3?
Well, I think uh, if I set a 3, then I wouldn't really be setting goals, nor would I care. So I think really an 8 just shows the fact that I think these are important, but I know they're not my ultimate determinants. I mean, ultimately, like I feel like I depend on the Lord for everything. And so, if one of these things is out of step or not really meeting the standard I want, that's not what really matters. It really matters if I'm being helped by the Lord. And so, while they're important, they don't take precedent over my personal relationship with Christ. That's a 10 out of 10. So, um, yeah, I think that's why I said an 8. And I feel like there's not a lot of things where I feel a 3. I think I find a lot of things important. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's also helpful to know why you wouldn't give it a 10. And so it sounds like you wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 because that's the place of the Lord in your life. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, for sure. I think those are just kind of the fruits of how my relationship is with the Lord. If it's healthy, I feel like naturally I will have a balance to all those things, and I will have the energy and strength to meet those goals. And so there'd be no reason to place those goals over my relationship with the Lord.
Yeah. Well, with that confidence, we can start setting some smaller goals. Where would you like to be in 3 months?
Wow, 3 months. Well, in 3 months, I'll probably be just moving to Richmond. So I think probably some good goals to set would be finding a gym that I think just has a good atmosphere. I don't think it's a very healthy atmosphere where everyone's obsessed with their body, and they're not wearing a lot of clothes. I don't think that would help me to stop thinking less about myself. And so I think just a pretty conservative environment where I feel comfortable. And I think just finding some good routines when I get to Richmond. So just getting fairly similar food each week, and also providing some money aside to eat at fun places with my wife, try something new. And I think uh, ultimately just depending on the Lord through the moving process and keeping that the first thing no matter what.
Yeah. So, one of your 3 months goals is to find a gym that feels like a healthy space for you to be in to reach your goals. How do you think you'll go about finding a gym that is conservative and not obsessing with their bodies?
I think just doing some tours. Yeah, just touring around Richmond and seeing what there is. I think probably Crunch Fitness, Gold's Gym, they'll probably be okay. So
Yeah, that's good. I think it's important to have action steps when we are creating these goals. And moving from there, what can you do this week to help move toward your 3 month goal? I know that you said in 3 months you'll be moving to a new state, and so things will look a lot different. What are you doing now, and what can you do this week to help prepare you for that 3 month goal?
Um, well, I think first things first is I got to figure out where I'm living. So once I have that figured out, I think I need to just like maybe do some research and see what gyms are nearby, maybe some nature places as well. I think nature, being in nature, going for walks is also just an excellent way of exercise and contributing towards my health. So I think just having those in my mind beforehand, so when I actually get there, I can just start exploring without having the mental labor of researching.
Yeah, that's great. How do you think you'll track your goals this week, and how are you going to be held accountable?
By tracking goals, I just like to keep a daily agenda. So just create some boxes to check off. And as far as accountability, I'll just tell my wife that by the end of the week, if I don't complete these things, then, or just have her check in with me to see if I've completed them by the end of the week.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you have a solid accountability person that you can go to in your wife, and just acknowledging that these are the goals you've set for the week and keeping your weekly planner so you can keep track of finding a place to live and researching the area that you're going to be moving to. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, how confident are you for these goals for this week?
I'm feeling like a 9 or a 10. I think you've definitely helped me just walk through the practical steps of how I can accomplish my goals.
Okay, good. That's what we like to hear. Well, that's all I have for today. I guess, how can I support you this week or throughout your whole change and moving process?
Just maybe a monthly or weekly email checking to see how I'm doing and giving me some sort of encouragement.
Okay, great. I'll be reaching out with an email. And do you have any additional thoughts or questions as we close this session today?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'm proud of all your work today, and I'm glad that you came to see me. It's been great to get to know you, and I'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach Spurgeon.